In this video, I'll be showing you how to manage the settings for the Program and Activity Reporting System, better known as PARS, for your programs and eeds. As a reminder, what is called an activity in the PARS is typically called a conference in eeds. The PARS settings are typically managed through the Conference Builder for all event types, and enduring material and short course recurring content conference types are also managed in the Activity Builder. For these types of conferences, the conference settings will be used as the default when adding the settings for individual activities. To access the Conference Builder, navigate to the Maintenance menu, then select the Edit a Conference Series feature to manage your existing programs. Select the conference you'll be working with, and then on the Conference Builder, scroll down to the Advanced section and find the ACCME PARS block. Use the Setup PARS Settings Now link to add new settings. You can create PARS settings for the current year, the previous 2 years, and the upcoming year. We recommend adding your PARS settings as soon as possible after creating the conference in eeds, so it's less likely to be missing later on. Select the year's settings you want to create, then click the Create Rules for New Year button. In rare cases, you may want to change the activity format, but typically you will leave this to match the conference type. If you've already created the activity in the PARS, please be sure to add the ACCME activity ID to this field to prevent duplicate activities being created in the PARS. You can find the ACCME activity ID in your PARS account by logging in, navigating to the Activities menu, locating the activity, and you'll see the activity ID listed in the details. So if this were the activity I needed, I would go ahead and copy this and paste it here into my ACCME activity ID block. This will keep this activity in eeds in sync with the activity in my PARS account. This will sync for the current year. So in the instance of an RSS, you can use the same conference year after year, and you'll put in a new activity ID for each year's settings. Next, you'll put in the rest of the settings that PARS uses. So if you need to customize the activity description, you'll say yes, and you can enter that here. You won't typically need to do this, but because eeds will auto-generate a description of the activity for you. If you need to include this activity on public lists, you can select that here. If there's a fee to register, you'll select that as well. Who can register for the activity? If it's an IPCE activity, you'll indicate that here. Then you'll enter your outcomes. So your objective and subjective for each, you'll select those that you are listing this as. And for your accommodation criteria, if you're marking it for reference, then you'll select that here and choose the accommodation criteria. And then lastly, if you are participating in MIPS, you can indicate that as well. Once you're finished, you'll click Save Settings. Then you can start over for additional reporting years if you needed to add, or you can return back to the builder. Or if you're utilizing web services, which we do recommend, you can send the activity to PARS. So if you have web services, we would recommend adding the PARS settings in eeds so that after saving the settings, as I've just done, you can transmit them electronically to the PARS. This will create the activity in the PARS, and the ACCME activity ID will be recorded in eeds. So this was successful. It has brought back the ACCME activity ID, which I don't need to enter because we've gotten it. So if I were to start over again, I'll now see my 2024 settings here, and that ACCME activity ID is listed here. If I now look in my PARS account, I can search for that, and it'll pull up this activity. So that's the benefit of web services. We do recommend that you manage all of your settings in this way, where you create them in eeds and then send it to PARS through web services. This will keep all of your information in sync between the two. If you ever need to remove your settings, you can use the delete settings option here. If you've already synced it with an activity in PARS, you'll also need to delete the activity in PARS as well. So you'll want to only use this if you need to start over. Otherwise, you can edit these settings, save them again, and then sync again. And this will update PARS with the new settings that you've marked. If you do not have web services enabled, or if you created the activities in PARS before adding the settings and eeds, please remember to get that activity, ACCME activity ID, in order to prevent duplicate activities from being created in the PARS. Next, I'm going to look at a different conference. This one is utilizing MOC. Those settings will also be contained in the ACCME PARS. So if I were to create settings for 2024 here as well, first of all, you'll notice that you can go back and edit and access previous years as well. But if I wanted to create new settings, you'll notice I only have 24 and 26 because 25 and 23 have already been created. So I can go edit those directly, or I can set my new year. This is going to pull in the information from previous settings. So I only need to update this if something has changed. So in the case of an RSS, if it's the same from year to year, you can just save new settings. You don't even have to update much. But what I was mentioning is the MOC fields. You can indicate the last day the learner can claim MOC credit. You'll enter the amount of points that you are estimating will be offered for the whole conference in the year that you're working in. And then depending on the boards that you've selected for this conference, you may have some additional fields to complete as well, such as the specialties for ABIM and the specialties for ABS. Each board has a different set of settings that it may include. And again, you can save these settings. I can send it through my web services to create that activity in PARS and bring back the number, and then those settings will be saved here. Just going to return to the builder for now, just to move along. Just as a reminder about that before I move to the activity builder for my events. When you're uploading your end of year reporting, any activity that is missing that ACCME activity ID will try to be created as a new activity and using the settings that you've entered in eeds. Activities that have an ACCME activity ID that you've already added and that's recorded in eeds will update those activities in PARS instead. So it's real important to have the activity ID from PARS if you have the event in PARS already to prevent duplicates. So I did mention that enduring materials and short course recurring content, those settings work at the activity level, the activity builder level, but you can still manage the conference settings, and then those will be used as the default when you're managing the activities individually. The other benefit is that you can update all of your activities at once for a date range. So for example, I'll scroll down for a moment to my ACCME PARS block. And before we look at that, if we look at the activity builder, I've got two different events that happened in 2024. So they'll both need their settings created. For, again, enduring materials and short course recurring content, they'll have their own ACCME PARS settings block. And this is where you'll set up the settings individually for those. So you can come in, they'll each have their own unique activity ID. Again, same process. You'll put in the information, you can transmit it, and it'll bring it back. So I do recommend doing that. But you can get all of the settings created first for you from the conference series. So let me show you how to do that. So navigating back to the conference, we'll go into the reporting year. This is 2024. Those two activities that we had will create rules for the new year. Again, this is pre-filling with our 2023 options that we had. So if anything changed, I can mark those or indicate those now. Otherwise, if everything's the same, I'll just leave it as it is. And then you have a copy settings option on this. So it's noticing that there are other activities that need to be set up, and it asks if I want to apply these settings automatically to those other activities. So if I check this here, it'll ask me what date range I'd like to do that for. So you can include more than 1 year at a time, but I'm just going to include the 2 activities that I have for 2024. I'm going to save the settings. And then because this is not managed at the conference level, it's managed at the activity level, I don't have that web services option here. So I would then need to go to each of my activities to do that. But those settings are now all done for me. So if I go back to the builder, I now have the 2024 year for the conference. And if I go back to the activity builder, I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this page. And you'll see now that it says that I have them set up. So I can manage the PARS settings. Again, we still don't have that activity ID because these are individual per activity in this case, but all of my settings are just as they were because we copied them. So if I save the settings, I'll then have the option to send this to PARS, which will bring back that ACCME activity ID, keeping my activity in PARS and my activity in eeds in sync when I transmit data from eeds to PARS. And that's how you would manage your settings.